To go out with me for fresh air, or for some sun and listen to the birds. To go out with me is to watch behind my back, to be anticipating what is ahead, to look for kids, suddenly lurching out of the bushes out of my mind. To be out with me is not to be out with me, and I don't know how I can change that unless all the stoplights remain green, and no one waits at the stoplights, and no one stands before us, or alongside us, or behind us, or anywhere near us. And it is not 2 meters, says the expert, it is 4 meters when the jogger or the bicyclist is exhaling, depending on the wind factor, the velocity. So how can we go out together with the masks that are of little value, but of some value to someone, but not for us? No, not for us here in Schloss Park. No longer the park that I knew, or Tarkovsky knew, who hated Berlin to death. He hated it. And the only place he loved was Schloss Park, where the herons stand and the turtles sun themselves, and the Japanese tourists who are no longer in Berlin, who are back in Japan where they belong, and the handful of people I would see in the park during the week are not mouthfuls of people, hundreds of mouthfuls of people that remain silent in my eyes because they cannot speak and should not speak, so it has become a silent world, a world that is kept silent through the use of masks, or no mask, and the sense of neighbors when they are potential carriers are no longer identified in any other context, despite all efforts to the contrary. Or why? When Kay, who was a hairdresser, abruptly approached my wife, and I, unconscious of my or her reaction, or he, negligent of the meaning of his drawing within the 3-meter radius, or was it 2 meters, and the sirens go off, and the pulse rate quickens, and the baby. Fortunately, I noticed the baby, who was in its cradle, directly in front of me, and it was munching on a postcard, and it had become very cute, though initially it had no features that you could attribute to cuteness. So noticing the baby, I turned my attention to it, as Kay then retreated into his hair salon, and his young wife continued talking with us, and so I felt I had overcome the initial fear. But that was some time after we had returned from the park, where the crowds of joggers and the bicyclists and the group of kids grouping or groping together, and that awareness of these groups nearby, and then the shock of the ball suddenly in our midst. Can you imagine a ball kicked in our midst, and the little boy running to it, and my abrupt standing and kicking the ball? Well, I could have missed the ball and kicked the kid. And the young father, fortunately, not seeing the frightened face of the old man who kicked the ball in the stadium of fear in my head, with everyone rising to exclaim that it's a crime and not allowed to kick the ball anywhere near a moving or still target, which any old person is. And that the police, where are the police, I thought, and I told my wife, who had had enough of the police to last a lifetime, and my hands up in the air at the infractions of the rules. But what were the rules? Were the rules the 4 meters today, the 6 meters tomorrow, or no meters in the nightmare when dreaming a life of normal perceptions, or meters apart, the lovers holding hands with no meters between them? Where's the measuring stick to take my tantrum? Take my temperature, my stick. Where's my stick to walk the straight and narrow sidewalk? Where's the logic? And madness of language, not even that can straighten this out. If it were simply the madness of consciousness, that would have the ability to reflect and to upstage the madness of reality. That would be the beginning of hope. But no madness can outdistance the social distancing, not respected by the joggers whose breath is eternity, if they be the ones, or the bicyclists, if they be the ones. And the police must enforce and practice social distancing and have no idea where to draw the line. And now the mind is left on its own and has decided it has no place to jog and no escape. And now, after everything has been considered, and that day has passed. That day in the park, where I was unable to find any peace, and afterwards, perhaps just for a moment, only the baby, who was playing with the postcard in her mouth from some distant location, from some sweet dream of eternal innocence, and my hands with the white gloves, still with the key in the door, head half turned and then seeking shelter with the door closed behind me, as if I had really lived, as if it had made any sense to go out, as if I had actually heard the birds, as if I had actually understood what is happening here and left to rest. To what? To go out with me, out the door at the wooden shack in Hunter's Point, greet the dogs still alive that had not been poisoned, past the old man lying in the kitchen floor, or digging in the garden for his bottle to the front gate.